Largo, Florida, where he's running for.
I'm running for the Largo City Commission, C3 in 2016.
Okay. Aaron is an HIV, AIDS, and human rights advocate, philanthropist, and activist to his current, yeah, I already said that part. Okay. He spends much of his time moving toward a pragmatic, progressive agenda that is fair to all Floridians, especially children, families, seniors, and veterans who are most vulnerable and susceptible to political change. The founder and president of the Florida Student Global AIDS Campaign, he travels the state of Florida, speaking to both partisan and nonpartisan organizations and at college campuses and religious groups, talking about the importance of investing in sex education and HIV/AIDS awareness while encouraging young people to get involved in their communities and their government. In addition to speaking around the country and internationally about HIV/AIDS at numerous medical conferences and health summits, he brings the voices to various healthcare issues and voices the concerns of young people and middle-class families. Aaron has previously served as the region lead to the Millennial Council of Ready for Hillary and currently serves on the Bureau of Speakers of the Democratic Women's Club of Florida and is the surrogate for Hillary for America, the presidential campaign of former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. But that's not why I asked him to come, even though I am. Okay. Aaron also spends much of his time fundraising for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and working with children who are currently living with and battling cancer at the Stephen D. Hassenfeld Children's Center for Cancer and Blood Disorders at NYU Langone Medical Center in New York City. Some of the stuff I didn't know about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He has also traveled the state of Florida speaking about legislation that is being lobbied and passed and voted against in both the Florida State Senate and Florida House of Representatives, with a focus on children and gun laws, of which he is also a surrogate on behalf of Moms Demand Action for Common Gun Sense in America. And all of those things are things that we could definitely get behind. But I asked Aaron to go a little, I loved Aaron because of his enthusiasm for everything that he does. And so I asked him to go a little bit out of his comfort zone today and talk about something that was not his area of expertise. And he rose to the challenge. He said, oh, I have a friend who's on the board of JNF down in Pinellas, and I will talk to my friend and I will get all the information. And I figured it's the beginning of the year and we need to honor our concern for the environment and Tikkun Olam.
Especially at July and August.
Yes. So that's what I asked Aaron to talk about. Aaron, it's all yours.
Alright, so I am going to be talking about the environment today. And of course, Shana Tova to everyone. I know that we just celebrated Rosh Hashanah. So, of course, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for being here today at the Jewish Community Center of West Pasco. You know, I want to, of course, thank Joan. I have spoken in Pasco County. I traveled the entire state of Florida. Mind you, I go everywhere from the Panhandle to, of course, Central Florida and the I-4 corridor, and then all the way to South Florida. And in doing so, I'm often invited back or come back and cross through counties. I've probably spoken in over 30 counties at this point, just in the past year. And for some reason, and I don't know why, I'm invited to speak more in Pasco County than I am any other county. Why that is, I don't know, but I do love Pasco County. I live just a hop, skip, and jump away in Pinellas, and so many of our issues that we face via whether it just be the environment or what the county commissions or anything that we all deal with, we all truly do deal with. Your issues are my issues. They are Florida's issues. So of course I want to thank Joan for inviting me here to speak with all of you today in your Hadassah about the environment, especially during this very special time for so many all across the world. You know, Rosh Hashanah marks the beginning of a time for significant and meaningful change. Spiritual change that motivates us to be a better person than we were the day before, and a better and much stronger, loving human being in the days and the months ahead going into the next year. A time for deep and meaningful reflection. You know, I find it looking all across the state of Florida and all across our country and all across the globe that there are so many issues that are affecting children, families, seniors, our veterans, and our neighborhoods, and of course our communities. And what a wonderful way to put ourselves in the shoes of others and neighborhoods and our communities and in our state by reflecting upon ourselves and reflecting on others and the ideas that help to shape the fabric of our lives. You know, we are living in such a significant and exciting time in our nation's history. You know that oftentimes when you turn on the television and the news, they like to report on a lot of the bad things that are happening, whether it be crime or vice versa, or the politics that is going on both in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and it's so much tension. But there truly is so much good that is going on in the world, and most of that never gets reported on. You know, whether it be the many policies that we see that are being put forth in the state capital of Tallahassee or the federal level of government under the Obama administration or the significant court rulings by the Supreme Court of the United States just this year, we are certainly living in an exciting time regardless of where you stand on various issues and your political views, as I again realize that this is a nonpartisan organization. You know, I recently filed to run for the Largo City Commission in Pinellas County, which again is a nonpartisan race, so I love being nonpartisan. And my election will be in November of 2016. You know, in the process of traveling all over the state of Florida and in various states around the country and traveling internationally as well, speaking about gun legislation, healthcare, HIV/AIDS, human rights, and the economic development and future of the state of Florida, one thing has become very clear. In the process of traveling and speaking, and above all, learning and listening, which so much of that, if you think about it, so many politicians and people who are holding elected office, do you feel that they ever listen to you? They're talking at you. They're not talking to you, they're talking at you. They're not listening to you. That's a problem. I can't name any politician, and I love Hillary, I can't name any politician, past or present, that's doing that. Someone maybe that I could say that actually listened to people, Bobby Kennedy, that's a name that rings a bell. Someone like that, that's the direction that our country needs to go towards. You know, in the process of traveling and speaking and learning and listening to others, I have found my own voice, which led me to filing to run for office. You know, in finding my own voice, I realized the obligation and the responsibility that comes with this empowering aspect of my passion to help and protect other people. You know, we all, though, especially realizing what Rosh Hashanah represents to all of you and to all of us, we all bear a moral responsibility in being an advocate and an ally and a voice for millions of people all across our state and all across our country and all across the world, whose voices go unheard, whose voices go unnoticed, and for the countless millions of people who cannot speak for themselves. You know, I'm here today to speak to you about the environment as how it pertains to the state of Florida. A lot of people seem to forget. Picture a map of the United States in your brain right now. All of it, Florida. Now, what is around Florida?
Water.
Oh my gosh, you guys should be running for office, because how many people in the state legislature and Washington, D.C. just don't seem to realize that the state of Florida is engulfed and enveloped by this thing called water. You'd be surprised how many of them, I think, you know, fell down, bumped their head, and woke up in 1892, and they still don't realize that still Florida, even then, was engulfed with water. It makes no sense. Yeah. So, you know, I'm talking about the environment, and I have to stress the significant and very important aspects of wildlife preservation and protecting our own natural resources, water, which include water and plants that envelop the state of Florida, as well as protecting the rights and the humane treatment of any and all animals on both land and sea. How many people in here, by raise of hands, have a dog, cat, anything? Perfect. I'm an animal person myself. We have 2 rescue chihuahuas. I love them. They are my life. They're the closest things I'll ever probably have to babies. But it's so important. That's what I talk about, is being a voice for those who cannot speak. The environment and so many of the things that we're doing, the whales that are being affected by seismic wave activity or offshore drilling, and when that happens and we're drilling, yeah, you know, it's mind-boggling to me. We are destroying our planet. We were blessed with such a beautiful gift, especially to live in the United States, where we have so many freedoms, rights, and opportunities that people all across the world don't have, and if they do, they are constantly attacked. Israel is constantly attacked for being one of the best nations all over in its region. And it's targeted for giving the people human rights. America must always, again, be a strong ally to Israel and take comfort in knowing that we share that common bond with one another. You know, in talking about the environment, we have to stress the important aspects of so much of this. Regardless of where you stand on various issues, we can all agree on the fact that water is a God-given human right, and that we must treat ourselves and our families, our friends and our neighbors and others in our communities all across the country with dignity and respect, which include the environment and animals. You know, being a voice for positive and forward thinking that will protect the environment and wildlife for generations to come. Because what we do now is going to dramatically affect future generations of children. You see, for me, every issue is a family issue. Any policy or decision or view that I take, or that I hope anyone else will ever take, will be one that is positive and inclusive for future generations, so every child can grow up in a world knowing that they can be whatever they want to be, that they can truly reach and develop their full God-given potential, and the dreams and opportunities and hopes that parents and grandparents have for children, and that they hope for them. For me, again, this is always about children. You know, living in Florida, as I have to say this again, because so many people don't realize that we are indeed surrounded by this thing called water. And you would think that many of the elected officials and organizations that are lobbying the state legislature and doing things that harm our drinking water, the springs that are here, the fresh water that we depend on to drink from the tap, the water that you get if you are lucky. We don't have a water line installed in our stainless steel refrigerator yet. Hopefully that will happen next year. But the water, again, that you drink, whether it be from the tap or from your refrigerator, or that you even buy from spring that you think is good. You know, when Hurricane Katrina happened, do you know how much of that bottled water for years after Hurricane Katrina was actually contaminated that people were buying in grocery stores? Do you know that?
No.
Isn't it mind-boggling what, again, the media and what the news won't report on, or what the government is not going to report on and let you know, but so much of that was contaminated in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Same thing, I lived through Hurricane Sandy in New York City. So much of that water and the drinking water and the fresh water around was contaminated with chemicals and waste deposits that people were drinking, that you're bathing in. It's not safe. So again, we have to realize that you have to elect people who are going to protect you, your families, your right to clean drinking water, and the environment and wildlife around us. I'll tell people all the time, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green, whatever you are, purple, whatever you are, bad politicians are elected by good people who do not vote. And we have to vote in people into office that are going to protect the environment. You know, when I say the environment, and I always say Florida, one of the things that always comes up are the Everglades. Has anyone ever been Everglades? Beautiful, beautiful. Now you would think that we would want to protect the Everglades. I'm going to try so hard to be nonpartisan in this thing talking about the Everglades, because it's really hard being nonpartisan.
Yes, I did.
It is very hard being nonpartisan. I'm not going to use the D or the R word at all. I will just use their names. Now, when Charlie Crist was governor of the state of Florida, he did do a lot to actually try to protect the Everglades and the environment. Now, regardless of party. Looking back, yes, he was a very good governor. Now we have a different situation on our hands. You have a governor who was just reelected last year, to my personal disappointment, but that is Governor Rick Scott, who had undone so much of the good work that both Jeb Bush, I'm giving him credit, Jeb Bush and Charlie Crist both did to protect the Everglades and the environment and drinking water. Florida is number 2. This should shock you. This should disappoint you. You should be disgusted for your children and for your grandchildren and for families and everyone around you, including yourself. Florida is number 2 in the entire country for being the most polluted state and having chemicals dumped into our clean water supply that you don't realize that you were drinking from your tap.
Wow. Since you've been not just all over Florida, but the United States, have you seen a resurgence in recycling, which would like radically
Change a
help
lot of things.
I mean, now I know they have drop-offs for medication because they don't want you to flush it down the toilet because it goes into your drinking system, or if you're buying bottled water, they say that like the 1 Brita filter pitcher could save like 600 bottles of water a year.
No, it's so funny because you would think it's like a PSA, really, getting that knowledge out there and educating the average person to know that there are, if you look at all the plastic drinking bottles, just water bottles, there are enough water bottles, and last year to circle the entire Earth 180 million times. There's that many. And you don't realize that some of your trash that you're not recycling, somehow, some of it does end up in the ocean, especially because we're here in Florida. I watched a very heartbreaking video a couple of weeks ago of a sea turtle. Gorgeous, beautiful animal that deserves that dignity and respect that I'm talking about. Its nose, the scuba diver is pulling something out of it, and it's awful. He saves this sea turtle though, and its nose, just as small as it is, it's the perfect size for a plastic straw.
Wow.
A plastic straw all the way in that sea turtle's nose. Pulls it out. The pain and the bleeding that this poor animal is going through. So I don't use plastic straws anymore, just in case. But it's not just that. I remember when Barack Obama was first elected as president, Michelle Obama, love her, has actually done a lot of really good initiatives and created a lot of committees and established a lot of awareness with saving our water supply. Things as simple as, going around on a speaking tour around the country and talking to elementary school students about the fact that when you brush your teeth, don't leave the water on the whole entire time because you're taking away from those penguins that are in the movie Happy Feet that you like, or you're taking away from the fish in Finding Nemo that you like. It's somehow connecting to them on their level for them to understand as children in their early childhood development years, which is so crucial and so key. But environment protection in the state of Florida is at an all-time low under, but who else? Rick Scott. He's cut budgets drastically. He's cut different departments and agencies that literally no longer exist, putting people out of jobs that are going to, regardless of your politics, the environment and wildlife and the plants that are in your yard and they don't vote, but they don't have a voice. So we must be their voice, and we must elect individuals who are going to fight for them, as well as any animal, whether it's that sea turtle that I was talking about, or the whales that are affected by seismic wave activity, or the offshore drilling that goes on that affects so much. I mean, we remember here in the state of Florida, Dale and I were out about 3 months ago at a restaurant in Pinellas County, and I was talking to a man, and he lives in Clearwater, and he was saying, he was a small business owner. And this is what kills me, because everything always, for me, goes back to the economy and job creation, as it should, because that's the #1 issue that so many Americans seem to care about, especially here in Florida, because we are a tourist state. Central Florida, we really are a tourist state. There's so much activity that can go on and money that is to be made here. It's mind-boggling to me that if you remember the BP oil spill of 2010, I was talking to this man, and still, this was just this year, 2015, he still hasn't gotten a dime from the federal government. From the federal government that shut down, he had to close down his small business, his restaurant, on a beach. These are beach communities. These are people that, regardless of what their politics are, they sing, they laugh, they live, they love, they cry, and they die. And stuff like that matters. We all feel, regardless of what your politics are, we all feel. And this man lost his business. He